We are here to talk a bit about SilkyY Mobile. But actually, before we start talking about SilkyY Mobile itself, we need to talk first about SilkyY Framework. So last year, around May, we launched SilkyY Framework, and there was a good reason for it. We decided to, for the guys who don't know SilkyY Framework is a responsive UI framework to build complex user interfaces just by using pre-built patterns. And you can do a lot of beautiful things with it. And the reason why we built it was that we took a closer look to the effort that was needed to develop an app. And we realized that around 50% of that time was spent around the user interface portion of the application. And it was not actually designing it, but actually implementing it. And there are many reasons why that happened, but probably the major one is that you need to use CSS. CSS, it's really amazing, it's really powerful, and really simple until the moment that it's just not simple anymore. So we needed to do something about this. There are many frameworks, and you probably know a couple out there that try to solve this issue, and they actually do a nice job doing it. However, when we actually look at it, you tend always to go back to CSS, JavaScript, or HTML. And we tried a couple, and they were not the correct fit for our platform that we wanted to. So we actually took a closer look to our platform itself, and we found out that we had something that was sometimes forgotten, which was the blocks. And the block is a piece of reusable code, and that code can be HTML, JavaScript, or CSS. So it was quite kind of what we actually needed for it. So we built it Silk based on those blocks. And just by reusing blocks, you can actually create your entire interfaces just by dragging those blocks around. And we launched it in May, and the community was quite impressed with it, and we were quite impressed as well with the responses we were getting. For example, Justin James, a beloved community member, was throwing sentences like, "It's a game changer for me." We were quite happy with it. And then we started looking into the actual usage of it. 1 month after the release, we realized that around 53 enterprise customers were already using Silk. And in the coming months, well, the number just grew and grew and grew. So at this point, I can tell you that over 90% of our enterprise customers using Platform 9 are using Silk. And that's really amazing. But it's not just the enterprise customers, because we also have a personal environment that you can try out systems and use it. So when we actually look at Forge, which is our library of components, we noticed that the most downloaded content was SilkyY Framework. It even surpasses OutSystems Now, which was the only way to build a native application within Platform 9. So we were quite happy with it. And we are. And thanks to all the great feedback that the community, you guys, provided us, we decided that we needed to change something around Silk. And the big thing that we changed was that SilkyY is now supported. And this means a couple of things. First one is that Silk is now supported through all the official OutSystems support channels. So forums or email, you can get support as you would with anything else in the platform. The other big thing is that right now, SilkyY in Platform 10 will not consume any software units or application objects, meaning that you no longer have to worry about reaching or even passing your license limits just by using Silk. So you can use it as much as you want. It's not a reason not to use it anymore. So we launched it. We were really happy with it, but we started wondering what will we do next. And the entire company was thinking about it. And we realized that mobile was the way to go. Nowadays, everyone uses mobile applications, and this is the best way you have to reach out to your end customers. So OutSystems 10 happened, and we built a way that now you can also build mobile applications inside OutSystems platform. That's amazing. So we needed to do something around Silk. What until now was known as Silk UI Framework had to be renamed and rebranded, and we renamed it to Silk UI Web. Just because although you can also build responsive applications, and so you are also able to build mobile applications with it, it's not the primary target. And we created a brand new Silk UI Mobile, and this one is actually just for mobile applications, so it's perfect for it. There are a couple of differences that I just want to point out to you around Silk Web. So the first big thing is that the TalkU template is now deprecated. TalkU template was the template that was dedicated to mobile. It was a mobile-first template. So now we have a new way and better way to build mobile applications. So it doesn't make sense to continue to invest our effort in evolving this template. The second big thing was that we deprecated mobile-only patterns that were available in Silk UI Web for the same reason that we deprecated TalkU. Now, this doesn't mean that you cannot use it. It's just that at this point, we are deprecating them, and later on, we may, and we probably will remove them from the framework. But you can still use it as you were using it now. So you can still upgrade to OutSystems 10 without any problems. The other big thing, and we are going to see this live in a couple of minutes, is that we implemented the primary color, which is a first level of customization that you can do on your application. Of course, if you still want to use the more complex customization, you still have the theme customizer, but this is just a good starting point. So now let's talk a bit more about Silk UI Mobile. When we started looking into applications, we noticed that there are a lot of them, and there are good applications and bad applications. So what actually makes a good application? And we took a look at some things. The first thing is that your application needs to be fast. A slow application is automatically dropped. So your application needs to be fast. And when your app is not fast, at least it should look like it's fast. You can achieve that by, for example, like in this image, give the information you already have while you are still loading the next portion of it. Then you have to think touch. So instead of the normal web application, you use it with a mouse. Now you are using it with your fingers, and your fingers are fat. So you need to think that every button, everything that you are providing to your user, it's going to be touched with a finger. And you need to take that in consideration when building and sizing your buttons and your links and your entire experience, user experience. Then you have to have smooth animations. If an animation is slow or sluggish, it will not be perceived as a native application. And with that's the same with interactions. Every time you drag or drag something on your screen, that motion needs to be really fluid and smooth. Actually, there are a couple of articles that I'm going to give you the links in the end of this presentation, just to two articles, really good, done by our own OutSystems experts about both animations and mobile apps. Well, then we have pixel perfect design. Everything in the mobile application tends to be really perfect around its design, and coherent. So if you have 10 pixels margin between an image and a text, the user is expecting to see that across your entire application. So you really need to pay attention to that. Last but not least, the users will interact with your application in a different way if they are using it on a mobile device or on a computer. So you also need to adjust your patterns that you use to be the ones that they are used to use on a mobile device. So that's what we try to achieve with Silk UI. So right now, Silk UI is not just a responsive framework. It's actually a codeless UI framework for both mobile and web applications. And with this new and revisited framework, we had to create a new website. So let's take a look into it. The first thing that you will see when you get to this new website is how you can use, you have a small video showcasing how you can use Silk. But let's take a closer look into more details. So with Silk now you can build mobile apps and of course our web apps. And the way to do it is by, as previous, using templates, sample screens, and patterns. Looking at templates, you will notice that now we have the separation between mobile and web. Web patterns, in this case web templates, are exactly as before. You still have Dublin and Lisbon as you were used to. But when you reach the mobile, now you have something new, which is a phone template, tablet template, and universal template. And we will talk about it in a few moments. So templates are the basis, but the rest, you need to use patterns to build your story, to build your screen. And around mobile, we created already 59 patterns, and they are really extensive. They reach from things that you are used to get, they range from things that you are used to see on the web, for example, a carousel, and you can try it here, or some tabs. But you also have something that's, for example, mobile specific. Let me give you an example. You have floating actions, something that's a pattern that's really mobile, that will not work properly in web. It will work perfectly in mobile. Something else that I would like to show you is that we also kept some classes. So if you want to give some proper styling to your application, containers or text, or whatever you may need, we have classes for that. So let me show you an example. We have classes for bold, italic, and underline, or classes for classes for color, where you can give color to your text. And we will use quite a lot of them today. So let's get back to our presentation. Oh, actually, I forgot something. These are patterns. However, you may want as well to see full built screens that you just want to replicate. And for that, we have our samples. And with samples, they are really simple to use. You just have to open them on your Service Studio and drag and drop to your screen, to your application. And they range from a lot of different things. But let's, for example, see this one, the Discover. That has a lot of images here. You have regular onboarding. So these are ready-to-go pages that you just need to drag and drop to your screen. So let's get back to the presentation now. So let's talk about mobile basics, SilkUI mobile basics. Everything in Silk starts with a layout. And we now have phone and tablet devices as two separated templates. However, they both use exactly the same structure. And the reason why we did it is that things can easily adjust between both device formats. And we just do that with CSS. Then you have a fixed header and bottom areas and a native scroll on the content area. This means that the header and the bottom are fixed and always visible, and your content can grow to the size that you may have needed to, and you just scroll them. Then the menu is off canvas and will work with gesture. What this means is that in order to gain performance, your menu is always loaded, but we take it out of the visible screen, so it's off canvas. And whenever you need it, you can click the button, or just by using your finger pulling from the left to the right, you will pull the menu to your screen. When you don't need it anymore, you can pull it back, push it back. Talking about the menu, you also have the icon that you see on the top left normally, and that menu now is configurable. So you can select if you want to, for example, to have the menu, or if you don't need the menu but you want to go back, you can have that button to be a back button. And the best part is that the gestures adapt to that icon. So if you are seeing a menu, if you pull from the left to the right, you will open the menu. However, if you select to have a back button, if your option is to see a back button, the same gesture will go back to the previous screen. Finally, placeholders, as usual in Silk UI templates and layouts are optional. So if, let's imagine, you don't want to use a bottom bar, you can leave it empty. And by leaving it empty, its space will be used by the content. So there won't be an empty space there. You will take advantage of the entire screen. So let's talk a bit more about templates. First of all, if you have used Silk UI framework, so now called Silk UI Web, you have noticed that you had to install Silk, and later you had to install each one of the templates you want to use. Now, with Silk UI Mobile, all the templates are within Silk. So just by installing Silk, you always get the 3 templates: phone, tablet, and universal. So let's see what's the difference between them. Around the phone, well, as the name implies, it's ready for a phone screen. It's quite a small screen, but you can still open it on a tablet. What we do in that case is that we add that small guardrail, so that small margin on the left and on the right. And we do that to keep your content properly aligned as you want it to, without stretching it. And when you reach the tablet template, it works exactly the opposite. So you will have much bigger space to use. So we have to shrink your content, but instead of shrinking it, we are rearranging it. And actually, you can configure how it works, how that works, just by using our adaptive patterns. So, for example, by using our columns. And the options here, they range from break none, which will set all columns side by side, to break all, which will stack all the columns above each other. So if we actually take a closer look at this example, you will notice that in this case, on a tablet device, I want it to break middle. And when I'm on a phone, they will break all, so they will be stacked on top of each other. And then we have the universal template. The universal template is here to be used in those cases that you want to have a completely different screen for the phone than another one for the tablet. And in this case, you can take advantage of the actions that Silk UI provides to decide. So in this case, when you are on the phone, you will be able to see the screen phone, and when you are on a tablet, you will see the screen tablet. They are the same screen, but prepared for different screen sizes. So let's do a demo. As you probably noticed that this app that we have here, it's basically the Gmail app for iOS. It's really similar to the one that we use on Android, but this one specifically is from iOS, and that's the app that we are going to recreate right now. So in order to do that, let's go to our Service Studio. So I'm going to select New Application. And it's a bit slow. Let's see. And I'm going to select Mobile App and Phone. Now I'm just going to pick a name for my application, in this case, my Gmail. I'm going to select a color for it. So this is the primary color feature I was telling you about. So just by doing this, all my application primary color will be red. So things will adjust to that color. I could upload an icon and select a color based on that icon, but in this case, let's just keep with the red look and feel. So let's create that and create the first module of it. And when we do that, we will be transported to our first screen, in this case, the home screen. So I'm just going to do something here. I'm just here today, guys, to show you Silk. So I won't be messing around a lot with logic. So what I'm going to do is that I already done that. So I'm just going to get my emails that I've previously downloaded. So now I have my emails referenced. I just need to create a way to get them. So I'm just going to really quickly create a query to the database. In this case, it's called an aggregate. So let me just drag my emails, and that's it. We have our query here. So let's take a look at the example that we are trying to build. The first thing that we are going to do is this top portion here. We have the inbox and a search feature. So let's take care of that. So the title is really simple. So let's just type inbox. And now let's do the feature for the search. Now, with previous Silk UI, you were used to get all your patterns from the right-hand side of the screen. So you would come here, and you would have it available here. And you still have that with Silk UI Mobile and the new platform, with the new OutSystems 10 platform. But now you also have another option. On the left side, you have all the available patterns that come out of the box with the platform. But also, you get all the Silk UI patterns here. And the best part is that you can search for them. So in this case, let's search for search. And we have a pattern for that. So let's just drag and drop that pattern. Okay, it has a nice look and feel. And right now it's giving me an error because it already brings me an input, and we need to set a value for it. And it's done. But we don't want it to see it open, so the pattern actually allows me to collapse it. Okay, I think that's pretty close to our goal. Let's check that if it is. And I think it is. So now we need to build a list to showcase our emails. So let's do that. Oh, and each email, we see an image. We see the people who sent us the email, the subject, and a small portion of the email. So let's build that. The first thing I'm going to do is that I'm going to drag my query to the screen. And a list will be created for me. So let's check this list. It's a list. It's using my query. And inside, there's a list item. And we can live with that. However, I don't like really much the content that we have here because it's not really properly formatted as we need it. So I'm just going to delete this for now. Now, I want to do something with my list. So let me see what Silk has available. So I'm going to type list. And you will notice I have something here that kind of seems right, which is list item content. So let's try this one. By dragging and drop it, okay, it has a similar structure. So let's start feeding in the correct information. So we have our image. Now we have some expressions for title and content. So in this case, let's use it. I will want to use the from. Then I'll need a second expression here. Let me enclose it in a container. And just copy it, actually. Okay, now we have a second expression below. Let's say that this is the subject. And finally, we will have our email, or at least a preview of the email. Okay, so we have the structure, but it's still not there. If you take a closer look at the image, you will notice that first, the subject and the email are a bit smaller than the name of the person who sent us the email. And second thing that you'll notice is that when the email is new, it's in bold. So let's see what we can do about that. So let's start with the person who sent us the email. Usually, in the previous platform, you would select classes here, and you still can do that. But now you can do something else. Now, this option here is actually an expression, meaning that you can build your own logic here. And that's what we are going to do. So we will want to have a bold when the email is new. Otherwise, we wanted to keep the exact same style as it has. So let's just build that. If my email is new, and I have that information here, I'm going to say that it will have a bold style, and otherwise, let's leave it empty. Now, I'm actually going to copy this condition because I'm going to reuse it for the second one. So, in the second one, which is the subject, we also want it to be bold when it's a new email. However, we need it to be a bit smaller. So, I'm going to add something here. I'm going to add heading 5. And we need also to add a small space. And it's good. Now, these classes are available in the website. And of course, I know the classes by heart. But feel free to keep your website open and go there and check every time you need as a cheat sheet. So right now, let's do the same to the email preview. So the email preview just needs to be a bit smaller. So I can actually just add it the same heading 5 I used on the subject. And now it starts to look a bit more similar to what we need. So what's missing? Okay, on the right-hand side, we have the time and the star, because I probably have selected the star to be the email to be starred. And actually, this picture does not represent that. But when an email is starred, the small star, instead of being just a gray outline, is an orange star. So let's add that feature to our app as well. So I already have a right-hand content here, but in this case, as the wrong icon. So let's actually start by adding a container. And let's add an expression here. And let's select the time. So in this case, is when we receive the email. And let's just give it a proper example and make it a bit smaller. And of course, when it's a new email, we want it to be blue instead of black. So actually, let's just open the expression editor and let's add that logic. So if my email is new as before, let's say we want to have it a text blue. And otherwise, let's leave it with the heading 5. And the email is there. Sorry, the time is there in blue. So last but not least, we need to add the star. So I'm just going to align right, and let's change this icon to a star. Okay, but now the star is a bit too big, so let's make it a bit smaller. And it's red. And the reason why it's red is that we are using, by default, the primary color, but we want it to be, when it's selected, orange. So let's just give it a proper color. But this is for the emails that are starred, so we need to have a condition here. Let's enclose in an if, and let's say that the condition is it will be orange when it starts. So, and when it's normal, we just want the outline in gray. So let's do a copy of the icon. Let's say that we want this icon to be gray, and let's select the correct icon, which is just the outline of the star. So let us check if we are missing something. We have the time, we have the star. I think we are there. So let's just publish our application. So while it's publishing, let's just recap what we have just done. We got our emails. We created a new page with a title, with a search feature. Then we listed our emails, give it a proper styling for when it's a new email or an already read email, and we styled the time and even give it the feature to showcase if the email is already being identified as a priority email. So let's just give it a second. And I do apologize, but apparently my internet is a bit slow today. Okay, it's done. Okay, it seems right. So these two emails are new. We have one start. The information seems to be there. Oh, but now I have two lines for the subject and the description. Let us check if our Gmail worked with that. It's a bit different. So let's take care of that as well. So what we want is that we don't want to see the full size of the text. So let's have another class here called text ellipses. And let's do the same for our email preview. And let's publish it to see the differences. Okay. So let me refresh this page. Okay, my version was updated. Okay, I think we are there. It's really close enough. So we already built this page, but now we still need to work on the menu. So let's take care of that. The first thing that you will notice is that on the top portion of the menu, we'll have the user's picture, the number of emails that he has to read, the name and email, and an image in the background. So let's take care of that. So I'm going to my common flow, and I'll open the menu. And that portion that we need to change is here, which is another block called user info. So let's go there. And this user info has a lot of things already done, but we are going to build our own structure. So let me just reuse what I can and delete the rest. Actually, let me also remove this class here. Okay. So one of the things that we noticed is that we needed an image in the background. So let's see what we have available for images. Oh, we have something here called a card background. Let's use that. So let's delete the example content here, and let's drag our content inside. And of course, now we just need to select the picture to be on the background. So let's get the picture. Let me also import a second picture just to save some time. Okay, so at this point, let's fix the image. But we are still not there. The content is a bit glued to the left and to the top, and that looks a bit different from Gmail. So we need to add some margins. So let's take care of that. Let's see if we have something, and we have margin container. So let's add a margin. Let's delete these examples that we are not going to need them right now, and move our content inside it. And of course, the text is in black, so let's fix that as we did before. Just typing text white. And we will need a second text here, so let me copy this one to have the email. So let me type my email. And of course, fix my name as well. So let's now take care of the image. Let's set my image here. And I do need to have something telling me how many emails I have to read. And let's use something really cool. There's a pattern in Silk called icon badge that was meant to be used as an icon. However, it will work perfectly with this case. So instead of an icon inside it, let's try using the image. And it looks good. So let's say that we have still 12 emails to be read. Of course, this would be an expression, but just for this demo, let's just assume that there were 12. So let's see how our menu is looking right now. And we are close enough. So let's take a closer look into the examples. We took care of this portion. Now we need to take care of this one. And each link has an icon, a text, and a number of emails to the right. So let's take care of these. So in this case, we just have one, of course. We could have many items, but let's just build one. So our page is called Inbox. Let's select the proper icon. And now we need to have an expression stating how many emails we have to be read. In this case, 12 new emails. But we need to align them properly. So I'm going to use OutSystems containers. I'm going to enclose everything in containers. And I'm going to remove the margin auto so that everything is aligned in the same line. And I'm going to define the size of each column. So in this case, I'm going to say that the first icon has one column, will have the size of one column. The number actually is not working. Let me click here. Okay, it's this one. So the expression will use 10 columns, and the number will use the remaining column aligned to the right. I think we are there. So let's actually publish and see it. Again, recapping what we've just done. We took care of this user information by adding our picture, the number of emails that we have to read, and some text, and we built the link portion. And the nice part is that now this menu will be available throughout your entire application. So we were aiming for this. Let's see how far we are right now. Let's refresh our app. And it was updated, of course. Oh, it is quite similar. So we built our first application. So let's see. Let's go back to our presentation. And let's talk a bit more about advanced tips. Silk UI does a lot for you by default, and OutSystems help you a lot with a lot of things. And one of the things is that OutSystems already gives you by default nice transitions to be used between screens. However, it's really important as an advanced tip for you to improve the navigation between screens with the correct transitions. So what this means is that although we have a default that you can use, you should improve that depending on the usage that you have. So, for example, if you are navigating between screens with different contexts, you should do a fading to the new screen. However, if you are, for example, on that email list and you are navigating if you want to open the email, that new screen with the email should slide from the right. And if you are actually not just opening the email, but actually editing the email, the new screen should come from the bottom. So every time that you are switching context, you use a fading. Every time you are doing opening a second level screen, just use a slide from right, and if you are performing actions like an edit, slide from bottom. And this will give you a great look, a native look and feel. Now, I'm going to talk about two patterns that Silk has that can bring your application from a good application to an amazing one. The first one is called Animate Block. The Animate Block allows you to animate every single element that you want, giving with a really nice look and feel, and really performance, an animation with really great performance. And the second one is touch events. As we have seen before, every mobile application and every mobile device, you interact with them with touch. So there is a lot of opportunities to take advantage of touch events. And Silk UI provides you a lot, but also provides you a lot to that already has touch events implemented, but we also provide you with the events that you can use to actually build your own components, and that's what we are going to do right now. So let's do another demo. The first thing that we are going to do is actually, let's change a little bit our home screen, so our inbox. If you notice, every time I refresh my page, my screen, the list will appear all at once. So now let's just add some animation so that it looks a bit more fluid. The way I'm going to do it is that I'm going to use this new block called Animate, and I'm just going to drag it inside my list. That's it. Now, it provides me with an icon to be used. I'm just going to move my entire list item block inside this new pattern. And I'm actually going to enclose everything in a container just to be neat. So I'm just going to select the animation left to right. And now we have an option called delay. And what I'm going to do is that I'm going to add a delay to when the animation occurs and to give a nice cascading effect. So let's just do that. I'm going to add this delay value is in milliseconds. So I'm just going to do a delay of 100 milliseconds times the number of the row. Just that simple. So let's see what this does actually to our application. Okay, so almost there, let's see it. So now, just take a closer look to what will happen when we refresh the page. Your emails are entering the page one after the other. That just gives us, it's really simple to implement, it just gives a nice look and feel to it. So now let's talk about the big one, touch events. Touch events is a new block that you have available, and that does a lot of things. Right now, we've talked about the menu that has gesture options that you can pull the menu, etc. All these was implemented using these touch events. Also, we provide you with a swipe event that is similar to this one. But right now, let's build something based on these touch events. In this case, let's build a new pattern. Let's call it a long press. So the goal here is to build something that when we do a long press on our app, so when I select this, do a long press on this email, I want to select it. In order to do that, I created the long press web block, and I'm just going to use the touch events. Now, it's telling me that it needs a widget ID. And this widget ID, it's basically the ID of the element that's clickable and that we are listening. So we are going to attach the touch event to this object. So I do need to, since I'm creating another block using this block, I also need to have that input. So let's add it. And I'm just going to pass this input to the touch event as well. And now I do apologize, but I'm going to do a bit of more complex code. And if I'm doing really fast, I do apologize, but it's just a bit simpler because we just want to show you how great this thing is. The first thing you will notice is that the block as well has events. We have a start event, a move, and an end. And for this long press, we are just interested in understanding when the user started to click the element and when he actually stopped touching the element. And if a certain time has passed since he started touching the element, we want to trigger an event. So let's do that. The first thing I'm going to do is actually creating an event handler for the start. Let's create a new action. And the new action that's created brings me the X and Y positions, the correct position where the user touched. For this specific pattern, we don't need this. So let's delete this. And let's have a second event handler for the touch end. And again, let's remove everything we don't need for now. Now, when when the long press happened, we will need to raise an event as well. So let's do that. By right-clicking the block, I'm going to select Add an Event, and I'm going to call it on long press. And of course, I'm going to need to call an action to use this on long press. So I'm going to create a small client-side action called long pressed. And inside this action, I'm going to just raise the event. So how are we going to know when to call this action? The first thing is that we need to understand that the user started touching the element. So I'm going to use a great new feature of the platform as well, which is the JavaScript node. And I'm going to build a custom JavaScript. So the way I'm going to do this is that I'm going to set an interval. And this interval will last 1 second. So after the user is touching it for 1 second, something will happen. And that something will be a function. And the function that we are going to use, since we are not able to raise the event directly, we are going to use the long press action that we just created. And that's it. Now, when if the user stopped touching the screen before 1 second has passed, we want to stop the interval because we just want to execute the long pressed action if the user actually touched the object for more than 1 second. So we need to pass this, we need to reuse this interval. And I'm going to create a parameter, an output parameter on this JavaScript node. I'm just going to call it interval. And I'm going to set the data type to an object, which is in this case a JavaScript object. And I'm going to say that the output of the set interval function will be stored with this variable. Let's just rename the node. And finally, we need to store this object to be used in other actions. So let's create a local variable with the same name and also with the data type object. And let's assign it right after the JavaScript node. Now, we know what to do when we start our touch, but what happens when the user removes his finger? We need to stop the interval to be running. So we are going to do another JavaScript node. Let's call it clear interval. We are going to pass the interval as an input parameter, as a new argument in this case, inside the JavaScript node, and let's just do a small JavaScript instruction. Let's clear the interval, and this is the interval we want to clear. Now, last but not least, when the long press happened, actually the user touched the element for more than 1 second, we are raising the event. However, we also need to clear the interval. So I'm just going to reuse the touch event and action here to do that exactly that behavior. And although this was a bit of more geeky code, the pattern is done. So let's see how we can use it. My information that I got from the database already has a variable telling me if the email is selected. So I just need to set that variable to true or false, depending if it's selected or not. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to use my long press element block that I just created, and I'm going to add it. Actually, I'm going to add it below the other element I'm working on. And what I want is that when the list item is clicked, we want to actually trigger we want to select the email. So the long press block has a widget ID, and let's say that the widget is the list item 1.id, and we have an event, which is when the long press happens, something has to be happening as well. So in this case, let's have a new action. And now in this new action, the only thing that we are going to do is invert the current status of the email. So if it's selected, it will be unselected, or if it's unselected, it will become selected. For that, let's just get the current email is selected, and let's just invert the status, so not selected. And now we are already working with the variable, so we just need to present that status, that different status to the user. The way we are going to do that is that we have the picture, and when it's selected, we are going to hide the picture and have a small check here. So I'm just going to use an if. I'm going to say that if it is selected, we want to see something, and otherwise we will see the image. And this something is actually just a small icon. So let's add an icon. And we want the check circle icon, which is here. We want it to be a little bigger. Well, let's change the color as well. So let's say we want it to be gray. And that's it. So let's publish and see if this new pattern actually works. Okay, so let's open it. Of course, it was updated. So I'm going to click now and see what happened. And it's working. Every time I do a long press, it's selected. And of course, if I do it again, it will become unselected. So this is Silk UI. And all the things that we did right now was Silk UI out of the box. They are amazing things. There are much more than we just shown you guys. So please do explore both the website and the framework by itself, and of course the platform. But let me just give you a sneak peek of new things that you can also have other things that you can have if you do just a small piece of CSS code and customization. This application is actually available on Forge for you to download, and you can download it and check how it was built. But it's a field service app that does the entire journey of a field service customer from this entire work. And it's just a little bit customized, and of course using the tablet template. And of course, if you really are more proficient with CSS and want to spend a bit more time customizing it, we also have a good example for that. This app is called Smart Power, and it's basically an energy portal where you can check your bills and payments, your consumptions, and you can even integrate IoT objects, and you can even integrate this app with IoT, for example, to control your thermostat. This app is available as a sample inside OutSystems now. So these are our great apps that we have for you to show you. But all these apps were built with OutSystems 10 and with Silk. And the only difference between these both apps that I've just shown you to the one that we just built is that they were changed with a bit of CSS. So thank you guys for participating. Let me just leave you guys with a couple of URLs of things that we have seen today and things that I would advise you to read. The first one is the Silk UI website, the new Silk UI website. The second one is the previous webinar that we actually did last year about Silk Web. So if you want to learn Silk responsives, the previously called Silk UI framework, just check this webinar. It's around 1 hour. It's unfortunately I'm also the speaker, and I think you can learn a lot from it. Then our CSS gurus just built 2 amazing articles. The first one is called Smooth as Butter and explains how we managed to achieve 60 frames per second animations just using CSS3. And of course, another one just with the 10 rules of creating a mobile look and feel. Last but not least, the link for the field service app that we just shown you that's available through our Forge.